Hey everyone, we are from group 13 and as you can see on the slides, these are the members of this group and we are going to discuss about the 1948 Arab-Israel War, the causes and the aftermath of the war. So this is a bit of a background about the war. The 1948 Arab-Israel War was the first war between the Jewish state of Israel and the Arab forces. The conflict between the Jews and the Arab began following the resolution to partition Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly on 29 November 1947. The partition called to establish two independent states in Palestine, a Jewish state and an Arab state. The Jews accepted the plan. However, the neighboring Arab states opposed the idea. They were in fear of losing their land to the Jews, and thus ensued a battle to control the region. Following the declaration of Israel's independence on 14 May 1948, 7 Arab states sent their armies into Palestine with every intention to bring down the Jewish state. The Jews fought with great success, and following their victory, the Jewish people were able to create a national homeland in Israel. The conflict continues until this day because the Palestinians refuse to acknowledge the state of Israel and refuse to leave their country. In this video, my teammates will further discuss the process of the war, who were involved, and will also focus on the factors and the causes that contributed to the war and the after effects of the war. And I hope you can enjoy.
And the first part for presenting is the cause of the First Middle East War. The cause of the war can be divided into 3 phases, which are Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. In Phase 1, war escalated after Israel declared independence on May 14, 1948. Arab armies from Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Egypt invaded the former Palestinian state. After that, both sides agreed to a 4-week ceasefire from 11 June to 8 July 1948. At Phase 2, Israel retaliated with military action by launching its first offensive attack, which began at 8 July 1948 to 18 October 1948, which called 10-day battles. After General Muhammad Naguib, Egyptian forces started the war by assaulting Nakba. After that, the UN mediated another ceasefire between the two sides on 18 July. This time is for 3 months. At Phase 3, after a break, Israel resumed its campaign. Israel conducted a series of military campaigns to force Arab armies to retreat. The Israeli troops also have encircled Egyptian forces held out for 4 months in the so-called Fallujah pocket until the 1949 armistice agreements. Meanwhile, the US in 1947 and again on May 14, 1948 had offered de facto reconnection of the Israeli provisional government. Meanwhile, the British were forced to stop supplying weapons to the Arab armies due to the political pressure of Britain from the Soviet Union and the US. Besides, Soviet-dominated Czechoslovakia, which also offered Israel both arms and airfields. The result of this war is the end of the war was marked by the raising of the flag of the Israel at Eilat. Separate agreements signed between Israel and its neighbor Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria, and this finalized the former armistice line. All in all, this armistice line lasted until 1967, which also brought an end to the 15 months of the war in Palestine. We can see that in this war, Britain's rapidly weakening influence and power in the post-war II period. Britain's inability to counter the country which rose after the post-war II, which were the United States and the Soviet Union. Thanks for listening and watching. Thank you.
I will be presenting about the causes of war. Huey argued that the war was caused by intertwining international and intra-regional factors. There are 3 main factors which paved the way for the war. The first cause, Zionism. Zionists proclaimed by establishing the land of Israel, the Jewish independence would be restored. She stated that the religious and cultural ties to the land of Israel made Jews think that Palestine is the logical territorial claim. Therefore, Zionism promoted the belief that Jews were entitled to Palestine. Moreover, modern political Zionism arose due to the European anti-Semitism and persecution. The incident of Holocaust in Europe has greatly fostered an intense determination of the Jews to create a Jewish state. Second cause, Arab nationalism. It was born out of the shared language, religion, and history of the Middle East region. Thus, Arab nationalists aspired to have political cooperation through the Arab League. At the end of 18th century, modern Arab nationalism emerged to oppose the European colonialism. The Arabs often perceived Western rulers to be pro-Israel. For them, Israel was not just an enemy, but also because of its close association with what it perceived as Western imperialist aspirations towards the region, particularly in regard to oil reserve. As a result, when the UN passed a resolution on the establishment of a Jewish state, this confirmed their criticism. Therefore, Arab nationalism was one of the important causes of the war, as it gave Arab nations a common enemy, enabling them to unite and fight against not only Zionism but also Western power. The third cause, impact of British foreign policy. After the First World War, both Zionism and Arab nationalists believed Palestine had been promised to them by the British. At the pause of the Second World War, Britain held the mandate for Palestine. However, the circumstances were utterly transformed by the massacre of European Jews. Due to the wave of sympathy along the sense of responsibility, Britain permitted Jewish immigration to Palestine. The British were caught between two conflicting but understandable viewpoints, so British decided to hand the problem over to the UN. The UNSCOP was formed and agreed on ending the British mandate and partition of Palestine to a Jewish state and Arab state. The Jewish state was to be larger than the Arab state, despite the Arab population of Palestine being the majority. The Arabs rejected the UN partition plan. On 29 November 1947, the General Assembly made the final vote. On the 14th of May 1948, the British mandate in Palestine came to an end, and the Jews proclaimed the State of Israel. As a result, a military coalition of Arab states entered the territory of British Palestine in the morning of 15 May 1948, which marked the beginning of the war.
After the 1948 war, the first effect is territory changes. Israel retained nearly all of the land recommended by the UN, and ran nearly 60% of the land allocated to proposed Arab state. This was undoubtedly a good for Israel, as it enlarged its territory by 21% over the partition resolution line. Here we can see the comparison before the 1948 war and after the 1948 war. So the second effect is Palestinian refugees. Out of the approximately 1,200,000 Arabs living in the former British Mandate of Palestine. During the war, more than 400 Arab villages and around 10 Jewish villages and neighborhoods were depopulated. More than 700,000 Palestinian Arabs were expelled from their homes. So by 1949, UN recorded 940,000 Palestinian refugees after the end of the conflict.
My name is Cindy and I will conclude the presentation. In short, the 1948 Arab-Israeli War was the first combat between the Jews and Arabs in Palestine. Zionism, Arab nationalism, and the British foreign policy were the three main factors which caused the war. The war started after Israel declared independence on May 14, 1948. The United States was not directly involved, with the hope that the instability in the Middle East would not affect the international balance of power at the time. There were several separate agreements signed between Israel and its neighbor. Throughout this war, Israel occupied some lands from the Palestinians Arab. Since then, the majority of Palestinian refugees live in or near one of 68 Palestinian refugee camps. Last but not least, in 2021, the conflict between Palestinian and Israeli has started again. After 11 days of conflict, the Egypt president brokered a ceasefire. However, it was broken out later after it was made. The conflict today is yet to be solved. That is all from our team. Thank you.